All right, this is that 86 HiWatt from Modesto, California. It's ready to go back in its cabinet for final testing with its speaker and the reverb tank. Notice this wooden board up top that it's screwed into with 4 screws. The board itself is kind of flexible, flexi plywood, but strong enough. Let me show you what really bothers me. And a hint to that are the 2 marks here and down here, where screws have rubbed up against the chassis. Let me put this in the cabinet. You'll see what I'm talking about. So this whole thing slides into the cabinet like this, through a little slot. Just a second. It's a bit hard to do. It's binding on the toilets in one spot. There it goes. So instead of the 4 screws in the chassis coming down through matching holes in the cabinet, so a very secure connection, the whole thing is held in place by 2 screws going up into some little wooden pads here in the corners, just like that and like that. And that's why there's some visible scratches and scarrings on the chassis. This is a punk-ass way to do things at this price point. Really poor quality. But that's what it is, so here it goes. And the screws are just drywall screws. As John Hammond said, we spared no expense. Let's see, RCA cable's connected. Let's connect the speaker and change the load to 16 ohms. This is a really crappy speaker plug. I don't think I can send this out into the world with a speaker plug. Let's take a better look at that. Yeah, that's utter cheap trash with no mechanical support. I've got a switchcraft on hand. A switchcraft with some heat shrink reinforcement will be going in place. For right now, I'll attach it just to confirm everything else is working. As hopefully you saw in the previous videos on this amp, I changed out these jacks so they actually do retain a speaker plug. We changed the impedance back to 16 rather than 8. I was testing with my 8 ohm shop cab, but the internal speaker is a 16. All right, let's take it out of standby. And see what we hear. Let's bring the reverb up. Cross our fingers. No reverb. Let's try a different tank. We've got us a whoa camel moment here. As I was swapping out that tank, I got a tingle from that RCA plug. So let's see what's going on. Is it AC or DC? So let's try DC first. $335 volts DC. Yikes. I'm glad I didn't hook this up to my tank. And I'm not surprised that the tank in there is not working. Why the hell do we have 335 volts DC present on an RCA plug going to a reverb tank? Well, I have found and cured the problem. This amp as it came in had a 6EU7 tube in the reverb driver and recovery stage, just 2 triodes for the entire reverb circuit. And since it came in with a 6EU7 and there is no documentation about this model with reverb, I've not been able to find an 80s 50 watt custom with reverb schematic out there. I thought, okay, they used a 6EU7. Weird, but okay. Well, no. Turns out that all the pins are wired for a 12 series tube. So 12AX7, 12AT7, 12AY7, AU7, etc. And the pinout is very, very different. And with the 6EU7 tube in there, it applied 300 plus volts to the RCA because that was on pin 2, which would be the grid of a 12AX7 was a heater of a 6EU7. So whoever long ago put this 6EU7 tube in there for unknown reasons tried to kill people and most likely did kill the reverb tank. Now I put a 12AX7 in there and I tested it with my reverb tank that's for Fenders. And I do get reverb, but it's not great. As you turn the reverb level up, the output level of the amp decreases and everything gets darker. I think that's due to two things. First of all, the reverb tank that I have is not the right load for this circuit. I expected that. Number two, it's a poorly designed reverb circuit because you should not have a drop in the level of everything else as you turn up the reverb pot. It should just add in whatever else is there. So my suggestion to the owner is don't worry about this reverb. It was an afterthought from Modesto. It's not a classic HiWatt design. You really cannot make a fantastic sounding reverb circuit with just 2 triodes. You need more than that. You need at least 3 triodes to do it right. And, the rest of it is sounding great. Move on. Don't worry about it. There's lots of reverb options in the world, and it'll save you one more tube and means that if you touch something in the back of the amp, you won't get electrocuted. And that's a nice place to be. So I had been hoping to do a final video of this amp where you get to hear it for real through its speaker with a real mic. And we will do that, but I can't button it up until I've spoken to the owner about this. So I want him to see this video with what I found with the reverb voltages, so he's on the same page as I am about this, and then we'll go forward from there. So at least one more video on this amp in the future. So until then, as always, thanks for watching.